77.35 got customized chips, works out perfectly. So let me go into a little bit of the thought process on the denominations. So we typically play on weeknights. When I say typically, I mean almost all the time. We play on weeknights. It's rare that we play on a weekend. Now, sometimes we'll play on a night where it may be a holiday the next day, and that's great. We'll play a little bit longer. But either way, whenever you're doing it after people are getting off of work, people have varying times where they get done. And so wanted to make sure that everybody could be included, that if you showed up late, it wasn't an issue. So what we do is we pretty much always play cash. Now, home games, I used to always do tournaments, right? I mean, it could be a $20 tournament, $30, it doesn't have to be anything big at all. And that was always fun. Turned it on its heels whenever we started doing it on weeknights, and whenever I started hosting. I said, you know what, cash, this way you're not committed. You don't have to stay here until the end of it. If you want to come in here at 7 p.m. after you've had dinner with the family and you need to leave at 9 because you got an important meeting in the morning, then playing cash allows that, right? You can come in, you can play, you can leave when you want. And so we pretty much stick to a cash game, and that works well. People can come and go, and again, you can show up late, you can leave early, and it doesn't really matter. So to me, it was important to pick out the right quantity of each chip to make sure that the game was enough to matter to people, but not enough to affect anyone, right, financially. So as much as I always say, I love to gamble, but I'm also cheap. And so thinking about playing with friends and a group of friends, I don't want to take their money. I don't want them to have a bad night because they lost something, which they may do if they were at a casino or somewhere else. We're just trying to have fun, but we also try to make it interesting. It's entertaining, and I'll get to how I make that easier, especially on a weeknight, regarding food and other things like that. But regarding the chips, again, wanted to keep it friendly, but also make it matter a little bit, right? It's nice when somebody leaves and they have enough money to, go out on a date night or something and surprise their wife, like, hey, thanks for giving me that night last night. We're going out to dinner tonight because I won $100 last night. So, to me, that's the fun in it. And if you end up losing $40, then hopefully you had a good time and it's not that big of a deal. So what we do is a 25-cent, 50-cent game. So small blind is 25 cents. The large blind is 50 cents. So with that, I needed to make sure and have 25-cent chips. Originally, I thought, well, I need 50-cent chips too to make it easy. But you know what equals 50 cents? 2 25-cent chips. So you actually don't need that. So the more that I researched and read, people were saying, don't buy something like that just to fit the blind structure. Just buy the 25-cent chip because you have to have 25s in order to post that small blind. And this works out well, having 100 of the 25-cent chips. Again, we're usually playing 8-handed. Maybe 6-handed sometimes. You worry more about the max whenever you're thinking about how many chips you'll buy. So if you have a 10-handed table or something, again, mine is only 8-handed. We occasionally squeeze 9 in. Either way, it still works. People can make change very easily. And we have 100 of the 25-cent chips. So that works out fine. Basically, the first 5 people that show up will get, one of these, which is the $5 stack. And so that's part of their $5. If we're starting out with 8, or as people buy in or rebuy, then somebody just makes change, right? You can just quickly pull out, 2 ones that you get, and then pull out 8 25 cents and give it to them. I mean, it works itself out very easy. So that was the perfect amount. You don't want too many 25-cent chips, but this is the perfect amount for that. The whites, again, playing a 25-cent, 50-cent game, pretty much everything involves dollars. So you do need a decent amount of ones, and so I think that's important because most of the raises, if it's a 50-cent game, the first person to raise is probably going to make it. Somewhere between $1.25 and, maybe $2.25, probably, maybe at the most, or $3 or something. And so you don't want to jump all the way to 5. So having a lot of ones is super important on that piece of it. And then obviously it's important also to have 5s because as soon as you get to that next round, if somebody raised, pre-flop to $2.25 and several people are in, the next bets are going to be, $7 or $8. And so you don't want a ton of ones out there, right? You want to be able to just pull out a red and 2 whites and be able to play. So, having 100 5s, I find works out pretty well. And so, again, we're pretty good 8-handed, and even that's what people rebuying several times on a night. And I'll say, what I require is you can buy in for as low as 20 or a max of 50. And I will say it's 95% of the time people buy in for 40. Maybe that's just easy because you have 2 20s. And so, again, most people buy in for 40. So you can think 8 people buying in for, $40. That's $320 in action. We start adding rebuys, and most of the time these chips completely suffice. We don't always even get to the 25s. I keep them in a rack. I keep it back in the storage room. And if we end up with a lot of rebuys or we play a really long time and people keep adding on, Then eventually we get to the 25s. Most of the time I don't even need those. So I probably could have had less 25s, but again, for the price, really wasn't that big of a deal. So it's nice to have them back there for the price. So anyways, these ships have held up extremely well over 2 years of play. I mean, no cracks, no damage of any kind at all. They're super clean. I think I've only washed them once, and that was back when we started playing after COVID lockdowns had stopped. And I was like, do I need to wash these every time? Let me tell you, that was a freaking pain. So I stopped doing that, and I keep hand gel out and say, hey, whatever. If you feel sick at all, don't show up. Make sure you're using hand gel. If you're eating, get your hands clean. So anyways, that probably also helps the shuffler, which in a moment I'll kind of do a review of where we're at. If you notice the drone footage, the man cave is quite different. It's evolved over the last couple of years. We've added some arcade games that I can talk about. We have some food options I can talk about. And making sure that people keep the chips clean, keep the cards clean, so that we can keep the shuffler clean. All kind of goes together. And also, hopefully, so that we don't get sick as well. So I hope you've enjoyed this. If you have any questions about the chips that I didn't go into, then feel free to let me know.